Well, good morning, everybody. It's a foggy morning here, which we can always count on after 3 or 4 hot sunny days. We have had some beautiful weather. We have competition here from Prince Leah this morning. I thought I'd give you a little look around at the gardens prior to the arrival of Tropical Storm Arthur. The first named tropical storm of the season is moving up the east coast. And is possibly going to turn into a Category 1 hurricane when it reaches North Carolina. I think that could be later today or tomorrow. I'm not quite certain. Last I heard it was off Florida, but that was last evening. And the current track brings it up the east coast and just east of Nova Scotia. So by the time it reaches the colder waters up here, it'll probably be downgraded again to a tropical storm. But Saturday, right now, our forecast is calling for high winds and 50 millimeters of rain. So give you a little look around at the gardens before they get knocked down. I don't think there would be serious damage, but after a heavy rain, things don't look so well. So if I can get Prince Leah to shut up for a few minutes, I'll take you out and show you a few things in the hoop house and the gardens outside. These are my control tomato plants. That large pot that they're in, zoom down a little bit further here, I guess, holds 80 liters of potting mix, and I'm using the same potting mix that I've used in the smart pots inside the hoop house. There are 2 plants in it, one of each variety, the yellow pear and the gardener's delight. But I just want to see the difference in getting a ripe tomato inside and outside here. So this is just up against the south-facing side of the hoop house. It has started to bloom, and they're reasonable height and excellent looking plants. Also in front of them you might be able to see a little dwarf eggplant, which I'm not so sure will ever produce anything outside, but we will see who wins the war. I think we're already far ahead inside. I have lots of green tomatoes, and these ones out here are just starting to bloom, but they are also the ones that were started a month later, so inside they just have blossoms too on a particular set of plants. Oh look, pots of dirt. Yesterday I guess it was, I sowed the seeds anyway from my fall brassicas, broccoli, and 2 different kinds of cabbage and cauliflower. So, and also some cucumbers to plant where I've got the bees growing a little later on. And just a little look again at the perennial things. I think another week or so after this storm is over, I'm going to start putting some of those things in the sheet mulch bed, hoping that it has composted enough. But I really am more concerned now about them putting down a good root system before fall sets in here, because if we don't have a good root system on plants here, they get shoved up out of the ground if they're thawing and freezing in the wintertime. My Cara potato trees are in bloom. Remarkable how tall they are. I don't know, of course they're standing above ground anyway in smart pots, but the actual plants got to be over 3 feet tall. And down in front here are the other varieties that I got, that package of mixed varieties of potatoes. I think there's 1 or 2 that I still have to top up just a bit, but everything is up and growing, including the 2 little marbles that I didn't think would amount to anything. And in front of that, the zucchini, 3 pots of zucchini. I'll put the list down below again to get the variety name. The strange thing has happened with those. I was complaining in the last video that female blossoms with no male blossoms to pollinate them. Well, those didn't fall off. I don't know if they've developed a new hybrid here that doesn't require pollination to produce a zucchini or not. I mean, I know they do that with cucumbers. You have the greenhouse cucumbers have nothing but female blossoms, and they just produce a seedless cucumber. So I haven't lost a single zucchini on them yet. They're not terribly large, and now there are both male and female blossoms. But some of the smaller ones will be harvested soon. I can hardly wait for my first grilled zucchini. An early look at a flower here. There are more coming up at the end of the video like I usually do, but I'm really enjoying these violas that I started from seeds from Vessi's. 3 different packets in a series, which I can't remember the name of. They're in the list down below. I have them growing in these window boxes on the cabin, and in trays up at the house, and window box up at the house and whatever. I really like them. They're small and such a variety of different colors. If I can get a zoom in on one here that I really like. I like that little one there. I have a number that are sort of like the winter squash plants. The 2 varieties that I'm growing are really starting to fill in the space. I did a bit of a weeding on them yesterday, the day before, and then just sprinkled around some of the organic fertilizer, the smelly stuff that I keep talking about. And I filled in some of the holes, but I've left one to show you here. This is what raccoons are good for. I don't know if it's got fish in it or blood and meal or whatever, but it's a really odorous fertilizer. And of course, the coons smelled it and went digging to see if they could find something under the soil. They didn't do any damage to the squash, and I've already filled in the larger hole, but I left that to show. And my poor old Ethiopian lentils. Getting weedy again, but as you can see, there's very few plants left there. My bunny, after I weeded the last time, came back and devastated them. What was 3 good rows of now a scattering plant here and there and everywhere. So I'm going to leave them alone and hopefully get a few to at least try, and maybe to save seed for next year. I will plant them next year inside of the garden bed that has the rabbit fencing around it. I showed the yellow pear last time, so this time I will show the gardener's delight. And I am delighted, Brendan. If you see that little light starburst on the end, in this crazy North America where we live, that qualifies as a fully ripe tomato. That's the stage at which they pick them and gas them with, I forget the gas that they use, and that will trick them into turning that horrible orange color, and they sell that as a ripe tomato. But anyway, in the greenhouse here, it's indicating that they are starting to ripen, so I'm so pleased with them. I have had so many miserable years with tomatoes in the last few years, and I'm glad to see that I may get something shot down the row here at the garlic. I have taken all of the scapes off, and still have some little brown tips on some of the foliage, but they're still looking quite healthy. I'm watering them. I just finished weeding them yesterday again, and gave them also a little more of the organic fertilizer. And Darren on Savage North Gardens mentioned that he does a pesto with the scapes, and I made 1 batch of pesto with them, and it is wonderful. Even though I didn't have all of the ingredients that I would like to have had, I added basil and parsley and green celery soup from the greenhouse here, and olive oil and whatever, and some cheese that I had. I didn't have the right cheese, but now I've bought pine nuts and Parmesan cheese, and anxious to make another batch. I have enough left in the refrigerator to make another large batch of pesto. It's very good. I've been concerned about these Spanish onions grown from sets. I never have much luck with sets, but they came from Quebec, so I was confident that they were a day-neutral variety. It's about the only variety that we can successfully grow in this climate. Day-neutral meaning that they grow foliage, or concentrate on growing foliage until the summer solstice, and then when the days start shortening, they start putting their energy into the bulb. Well, as you can see there, some of them are starting to bulb up, so it looks like I'm going to get onions. It'll remain to be seen what size they actually are, because around the 1st of August, the first week of August, sometime they're coming out no matter what size they are. This is where my fall brassica crop will be going. The number 1 cachofe, artichoke, is almost ready to be harvested. It's a good size, and on that same stalk there are 2 smaller ones, one of which has been partially eaten by something. I don't know what I've got in here that's eating artichokes. I'm going to have one, and I'm making some aioli anyway. I'm going to, the walking group that I'm a member of, we have an annual picnic, and it's this coming Sunday, so I'm making aioli to use in a potato salad, so I will have an artichoke with some aioli. That's the same cluster of grapes that I keep showing, and if you can see, this 4, maybe 5 grapes that sort of shriveled and turned brown. I don't know what that means. They were green like the other ones, so I assume that meant that they were, pollinated and starting to develop, but anyway, it's the only cluster that's happening on, and it was only 4 or 5, and I'm continuing to show the same cluster to show how it's developing, so brown grapes and all, there it is, shot down the row of potted hot chili peppers, 3 varieties of hot and 1 variety of sweet bell pepper. And now I'll show you what happens when you plant your chili peppers on the 9th of December. This is one of the cayenne pepper plants, and it's got its first little red chili. This is what, the 3rd of July, I guess. Not a very big one. It was one of the first ones that formed, probably formed while it was still in the house. I've had several of the longer green cayennes, used them in stir fries. And this is one of the cherry hot peppers. Big Bomb, I think it's called. Getting nice and red. Those are nice and hot too. I haven't had a ripe one yet, but I've been using some of the green ones. Bit of a wide angle shot, as wide as I can do with this camera. From a different perspective than I usually show the hoopos. To finish this look around, this is one of the 2 fig trees in here, and it's starting to produce the second flush of figs, tiny little things at this point. I've never successfully had figs before. I was expecting the first ones that came out earlier to be ripe before the second ones came, but they're not. They're still green. They're quite large, but they're still green, and it's starting to grow a second flush. So no figs yet, but I still have hope. Well, thank you very much for watching. We'll finish this video up with a look around at some of the things that are in bloom in the garden prior to the arrival of Tropical Storm Arthur.